There are things that are under our control and others that are not. Under our control are our opinions, preferences, desires, aversions, and, in a word, everything inherent to our actions. Outside of our control are the body, wealth, reputation, authorities, and, in a word, everything that is not inherent to our actions. This is how the Enchiridion, or Handbook for Life, by the famous Greek philosopher Epictetus begins. For the Stoics, if you wish to live a full life without excessive mental distress, you must understand that some things are within your control, while others are not. Our duty as Stoics is to focus our energy on all aspects that are under our command, and to disregard those that are not. Before we continue, we would appreciate it if you hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Join our community of like-minded individuals on the path to self-mastery and Stoic strength. Your journey starts here. And to dive even deeper, unlock the wisdom of Stoicism and continue your personal transformation with our hand-picked book recommendations in the description. These timeless works by philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca are filled with actionable insights for building inner strength, finding calm, and living a balanced life. By using our links, you not only gain powerful knowledge, but also support our mission to bring you more transformative content. Don't miss out. Start your Stoic journey today. One of the greatest challenges a person can face is dealing with the opinions and judgments of others. No matter how much effort we put in, it is almost inevitable that we will be moved, whether positively or negatively, by them. If you truly want to avoid being affected by these opinions, you must understand that others' opinions, insults, or any kind of personal attack are not within your control. In the Manual of Life, Epictetus teaches us how we should act when we are the target of an offense. Therefore, the purpose of this video is to extract the teachings from the famous Enchiridion, or Handbook for Life, in order to reach a mental state that allows us to reduce or eliminate any suffering caused by external judgments. Through 7 teachings or principles taken from Epictetus's Manual of Life, you will learn why you shouldn't worry about others' opinions, and how to achieve a state in which those opinions can no longer harm you. So, if you find the premise of this video valuable, I encourage you to stay until the end. The first principle we will analyze deals with insults or offenses, and Epictetus writes the following: Remember, it is not the one who insults or strikes that offends, but the judgment that defines these actions as offensive. Therefore, if someone provokes you, remember that it is your own opinion that is affecting you. Try not to be swayed by appearances, because once you gain some time and take a breath, you will control yourself more easily. One of the keys to stop caring about others' opinions is understanding that an insult or offense is not inherently harmful. The cause of emotional distress from an insult actually comes from how we process it. When someone disrespects or belittles you, remember that the insult will only harm you if you allow it to. If you react negatively to it, the person who insulted you will have achieved their goal, and we could say that you have been defeated. On the other hand, if you respond stoically and do not engage with the insult, the one who loses will be the person who insulted you, because a person's worth is measured by their ability to tolerate negativity, as unfortunately negativity is part of life. So, when you feel insulted or offended, ask yourself, do I want to win or lose? Do I want to give in to what I cannot control? Allow me to draw a parallel within Stoicism regarding pleasures. If we want to avoid being confused by them, the way to do so is not by attacking desire. Desire will never disappear. It will accompany you for the rest of your life. What will make the difference is how you process that desire, whether you immerse yourself in it or ignore it. In the same way, if you manage not to be disturbed by insults, the satisfaction you will feel afterward will make you superior, and you will be able to advance steadily through adversity. You may be thinking of a time when a negative opinion ruined your day or even your week, despite your intention not to succumb to those thoughts. Let me tell you that I understand how you feel, because everyone has experienced this situation at some point. If this is your case, I encourage you to stay until the end, because in the next principles we will delve deeper into the topic of self-control. The second principle we must understand if we want to avoid being affected by others' opinions says the following: If you have a firm purpose to understand philosophy, be prepared from the start to be ridiculed. You will hear them say, "He has suddenly become a philosopher," or "Where does this arrogant attitude come from?" Make sure you don't adopt that arrogant attitude and hold on consistently to what is good for you. Because remember this, if you remain constant in your position, the same people who ridiculed you will end up admiring you. But if you let others convince you, you will make a fool of yourself twice. Epictetus spoke to those who wanted to become philosophers, but even if you don't wish to become a philosopher, this maxim proposed by the Greek can be applied to any other area of life. This principle is key, as how many people turn their backs on their true talents just to please those dissenting voices. What Epictetus tells us is that if we abandon the purpose we know we must follow just out of fear of others' opinions, we will make a fool of ourselves twice. First, because we tried and were not able to continue, and second, because we gave in to others' opinions. We should not misunderstand this and think that if you fail or abandon your purpose, you make a fool of yourself. Not at all. You make a fool of yourself when you abandon your goals solely to avoid conflict with society, to avoid being judged. That's where the real problem lies. Now we can link this principle to the previous one and say that if your purpose or project fulfills you and makes you happy, you should carry on regardless of others' opinions, as giving up all the positive consequences of pursuing your goals just to avoid a little conflict doesn't seem worth it. Right? Don't you think it's worth gritting your teeth and enduring some mockery or criticism for a while, knowing that in the end you will be happy because you will be living in line with your true nature? I encourage you to think about this every time you have to make a decision in your life. Consider your priorities and understand the real reason behind your decision. Don't worry about the idea of living in dishonor or being a nobody in the eyes of others, because if others can make you miserable by not honoring you, then they would have the power to make you unhappy, and that's not the case. Nor can others force you to participate in something dishonorable. After all, is it really a dishonor to lack power or to not be invited to a feast? Why should it be true that because of this you are nobody anywhere? You should only be someone in matters that are under your control and where your decisions are what matter most. This principle is highly relevant today. How many times have you done something you didn't really want to do just to win someone's favor? And more specifically, in the context of social media, today we see how social validation on platforms like Instagram acts like a poison. We must ask ourselves, is it worth changing who we really are to gain a little satisfaction? Is it worth placing our mental well-being in someone else's hands? My answer is clear, no. I recommend reflecting on this because at some point we have all fallen into this trap. If one day you are caught doing something that embarrasses you, but the action is not malicious in any way, should it matter to you if they laugh at you or even ostracize you? And when it comes to popularity, what does it really bring you? If your satisfaction depends on how popular you are, you will live in constant tension because your happiness will not be in your hands. Therefore, you will constantly change who you are to avoid losing status. One of the key points of Stoicism is to focus only on what is under your control and become indifferent to what is not. Later on, I will make a video focusing on Stoicism in general if I see this video receives enough support. Let's move on to the next. If someone were to hand over your body to the first person they meet on the street, you would surely be angry. Yet you have no reservations about handing over your mind to confusion and distress to anyone who feels like insulting you. This principle revolves around the idea we've discussed earlier. It's up to you whether an insult becomes an offense. As Epictetus says, you should have as much respect for your mind as you do for your body. I'm sure you wouldn't let a stranger stay in your house every day, knowing the threat that would pose. However, when you process an insult as an offense, at that point that person has entered your mind and may stay there for days. So why do we let these strangers into our minds when we would never let them into our homes? To reach a state where you can ignore the negative feelings from an offense, you must build discipline and self-control. This should apply to all areas of life, even with your family. When you're angry, control that anger. You will save yourself unnecessary suffering and feel more at peace with yourself. Believe me, working on this can be a turning point in your life. When you do something that by your best judgment should be done, never be ashamed of being seen doing it, even if everyone forms an incorrect opinion of your actions. Because if you don't act rightly, then don't do it at all. But if your actions are right, why fear others' misjudgment? I already mentioned this in the point about social media. When your happiness depends on your popularity or others' validation, you stop doing what you know is right, just because people might misunderstand you. At that point, you're no longer acting for yourself, but for others. And you must ask yourself if it's worth living like that. The decision is entirely yours. I have little more to add on this point, so let's move on to the sixth. If someone harms you or speaks ill of you, remember that they are acting under the belief that it is right to do so. You cannot expect that people will act in line with what seems right to you, but not to them. So, if they are judging based on a false appearance, they are the ones harmed by their error. Based on these principles, endure patiently the person who injures you, And in each of these occasions, simply say, "That is how it seems to him." Throughout this video, I've talked about how you should respond to insults to avoid falling into emotional distress. Well, in this sixth principle, Epictetus focuses on analyzing the motivation of the person who insults. He tells us that you cannot expect anyone to act according to what you think is good or in favor of your worldview. This mindset can be highly detrimental. You should reflect on this. Is it really feasible to believe that everyone has the same worldview as you? It's naive to think so. In this world, there are as many ways to see it as there are people. And on a personal level, there are as many versions of you as there are people who encounter you in life. So, if someone insults you believing they know the truth about you, consider this. You are you. You know who you are. You know what you think. You know why you act the way you do. The only person who truly knows the truth about you is you. So, if a stranger insults you, ask yourself these questions. Have I done wrong? If the answer is no, then ask, can I get inside their mind to understand the reason for the insult? Obviously not. So, if you're sure you've acted correctly and cannot understand the motivation behind the insult, you should be satisfied because you are the person in the world who knows yourself best. And if you've acted correctly, no burden should weigh on your shoulders. As Epictetus said about the person who insults, that's how it seemed to him. Finally, as the seventh and last point, Epictetus tells us that no one can harm us unless we allow it. He writes, "This applies not only to your father if he is unjust or your brother. Keep your position in relation to him. Do not consider what he does, but what you do to maintain your free will in line with nature. No one can hurt you if you do not consent to it. They can only hurt you if you believe you've been hurt." Applying this idea to a neighbor, a citizen, or a general, you will be able to establish your proper duties if you become accustomed to considering different relationships. In my opinion, this last lesson perfectly sums up the message Epictetus wanted to convey. You should not focus on the object of discomfort, but on how you process it. Understand that it is in your power whether or not a situation affects you. In every interaction in your life, you must internalize this message. You know what's going on in your head. If someone else, with their poor external analysis, has disrespected you, don't give them a single minute of your time. This won't improve your life in any way. The only thing that can happen is that your mood becomes disturbed. I highly recommend reading both the Enchiridion and other Stoic works, as they shed a great deal of light on life. To conclude, I'd like to end with this lesson from Epictetus. How much longer are you going to wait before you demand the best of yourself and follow the dictates of reason? You have been given the principles of philosophy with which you ought to be familiar. What other teacher are you waiting for to begin correcting yourself? You are no longer a child, but an adult. Therefore, if you continue to be negligent, lazy, and keep postponing things, adding excuse after excuse, putting off the day when you will devote yourself to yourself, your life will slip away unnoticed and without progress. You will remain one of the common crowd until the day you die. If this video has inspired you and you want to continue learning more about how to improve your life from a Stoic perspective, subscribe and activate the bell. See you in the next video where we will continue exploring Stoicism and how to apply it to everyday life. Remember, stay strong, stay positive, and stay true to yourself. Thank you for staying until the end.